Hey everyone, and welcome to the second part of In Cap We Trust. This is our second special guest that we have coming today. We have Alex Carr of The Good Fight, newly of The Good Fight. Alex, how are you today?
Doing all right, Shane. How are you?
I am doing well, man. Look, we had Johnny on earlier. We have you on now. We're just starting to take some guests, and I couldn't think of two better people in Philadelphia Phillies Twitter than both you and Johnny to get on here. So I'm pretty excited. With Johnny, we talked about the NL East and the state of the NL East right now. You and I are both kind of prospect heavy guys. You definitely more so than me, so I couldn't think of a better person to put on to talk some of the young guys in the Philadelphia system than you. But before we get started, for all of my listeners who do not know you or are not familiar with your work yet, why don't you give us your personal Twitter handle and then maybe talk just a little bit about your short time so far at the Good Fight.
Sure thing. So my personal Twitter handle is at Alex Carr MLB. Pretty simple. And I got to join the Good Fight, which has been an absolute blessing and a half. I mean, all of those people, Justin, Liz, they're awesome. John too. I mean, it's been crazy I've been a listener of the Good Fight for ages, and to be able to join those people now and kind of work in cahoots, it's been pretty cool. So. Yeah, I'm just bringing my prospect knowledge and my love of the game over there, and I'm super psyched to be a part of it.
Awesome, man. Have you actually gotten on their show yet?
No, I have not. I'm hoping one day, hopefully,
Awesome.
it'd be super fun. But when the regular season starts up, I'm going to start doing a lot more prospect heavy stuff, as well as some covering of games and things like that, and that'll hopefully give me that edge that I need to get on hidden season or continued success or something of the sort. So
Awesome.
that'll be fun. Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, I'm glad to have you on my show.
Good to
Definitely a
be
plus
here.
for me. Um, so, we've been messaging throughout the week here, for some of our listeners who haven't seen maybe some of our back and forth on Twitter or your back and forth with other people on Twitter, just about some of the prospects. And we actually put together each of our own top 10 right now in the Philadelphia Phillies farm system. So we're going to break this down real quick for the top 10. Most of our top 10 is fairly similar,
I'd
but
say
there
so.
are a few there that are, well, different to say the least. You're jumping five or six spots in some of these cases. Um, but our top three right now, well, let's start with our top two. Our top two are the same. You have Luis Garcia and then Alec Bohm. I have Alec Bohm and then Luis Garcia. Why don't you tell our listeners, I don't think a whole lot of people yet know who Luis Garcia is. Why don't you talk just a little bit about Luis Garcia and what really separates him for you to give him that number one spot for the Philadelphia Phillies?
All right. So this is my favorite thing to go off about right now. I am probably as high on Luis Garcia as I have ever been on any prospect. I've been following prospects for quite some time, but I don't think I've ever really loved a prospect as much as I love Luis Garcia. So first of all, I mean, the kid plays electric defense, and that's just not something you can teach. You look at somebody like Andrelton Simmons, Frankie Lindor, all these guys. They have that ability to just they see the ball in a different way. They can play shortstop like nobody else can, and it's more an Andrelton Simmons than anything. I would say because he really, especially in tandem with Alec Bohm, which is so cool because they're best friends right now, which is my favorite relationship. Um, even even rivals that of Reese and Bryce, which it's a big step. But I love Luis Garcia. Not only is his defensive capability that of an elite player, um, but you also look at his ability to see the ball in the batter's box. I mean, the kid hits like crazy. He sported something of upwards of 380 batting average. I don't have his stats in front of me, but he sported upwards of a 380 batting average through I believe low A this year, and he was absolutely. I mean, strikeout numbers are low. His contact numbers are supreme, and the only thing that he's missing really is the power stroke, which when Francisco Lindor discovered launch angle, he popped right off. So we do have we're hiring a lot of driveline guys right now for our internal sort of our coaching in the lower systems, and that's going to really help, especially with Ockert. I think he's going to be huge
Yeah.
for Garcia, just because he's going to help him discover that launch angle and hopefully that power. So
Well, if Andrelton Simmons, the comparison there and the Lindor thing doesn't get people excited, I don't know what will.
exactly.
That's a pretty strong shoes there to
Yes,
fill.
sir.
But look, I couldn't have said it better myself. Getting the opportunity to watch a ton of his tape, ton of his YouTube highlights, things like that. Watching him play defense is something. So I'm real old school. Like I love pitchers duels. I love the 1-2 nothing games. I love that just defensive struggle out there. And watching guys like him play. You use the word elite in terms of defensive prowess out there. He is. And he's super super young. Um, you know, what kind of time chart do you have him on? The Segura thing to me, and to a lot of people around baseball, he's an eventual move to second base. Someone of his build. What would you kind of use his ETA right now for people to really start gauging Luis Garcia in terms of that AAA spot, for that cup of coffee before he comes up?
So it's going to be tough just because of how much variance we have in our ability to throw guys around the diamond. So, I mean, you've got Scotty, who they're working in that super utility role right now, and Segura's currently playing short. But did they reverse that in the future when Cesar is, likely gone, for lack of a better term? But how are we going to maneuver them around the diamond that is the most effective way as possible? So for me, I'd say because of the fact that Scott and Gene Segura are locked up for, I think both for the next 5 seasons. I think Segura is locked up through his age 32, so that would be 4. But
Yeah.
either way, that kind of makes it tough to say, Garcia will get up before then. I highly doubt they give him a Scotty treatment in which they start playing him around the diamond and things like that. I think he's a shortstop, and a shortstop he will stay. So I'd say once Segura's contract expires, that's probably my best guess at an ETA. So probably around 2023, 2024. But even then, it's hard to say because he really could, if his contact skills continue to improve, if he discovers that pop. I mean, they may be forced to make some sort of move to free up his spot or whatever's most convenient at the time. But I'd say conservatively 2023, 2024, if that.
Yeah, I'd say that 3 to 4 year range right now, especially, and you mentioned Jason Ochart earlier. Um, you know, I'm curious to see what he's going to be able to do with a lot of the young guys. Both Moniak and Hazley are guys that haven't quite yet found that power stroke. I mean, a prospect no one talks about anymore, mainly because he's just struggled incredibly, is Cornelius Randolph, who was one of the best power hitting, shortstops, honestly, out of the Atlanta, Georgia area. Converted out to left field, and he doesn't or hasn't really shown the power. Last year, I think he popped 12 or 13. But there are guys that we were kind of banking on some of that with that we haven't yet seen, and I do think that Ochart thing is going to be a really underrated move for the organization. And people have no idea
I
who the hell
agree.
he is, and that's fine. But you'll all know the name soon enough when some of these guys come up. But yeah, look, I think with the way that the infield is constructed, as you mentioned, there are quite a few blocks right now over the next 2-3 seasons. But I could definitely see him forcing some hands, in that year 3, to sit there and say, hey, maybe we're going to call him up early, and force someone out of a position. Maybe it makes someone expendable, kind of the Placido Polanco effect of like 2004, I want to say, whatever it was, 2003. You force a talented veteran out to get a Chase Utley type in. Alec Bohm is someone who I don't know about you. When we drafted Alec Bohm, I was so pissed off. It was something I just did not want. Just hearing so many people around baseball, say this kid, he's not long for third base. He's going to be a first baseman. He's going to be a left fielder, or a DH. And I was like, well, we don't really need that with the prospect systems that we have here. But I studied up, I educated up, and I now can't be higher on him than I possibly am. Why don't you tell some people just about Alec Bohm? He's a far more matured kid and prospect. He's someone who could probably push a promotion far sooner than most of the other names we're going to talk about. But why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about him and the upside that is Alec Bohm?
I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with drafting a 6'5", 200 plus guy. I mean, especially with his contact ability. I mean, the dude can hit. There is no way around that. He's proven that at multiple levels. He even for a bit last year, he didn't do as well. I think he played 40 games in the minor leagues, but
Well, you hurt
he
his knee last year.
right, he hurt his knee. But um, you know, I've seen a lot of people saying that his hands are weak, his hips are weak. Uh, there are multiple flaws to his stance, things like that. And to me, I just think that you have a guy that's proven on every level that's not, in our farm system at least, that he can hit. And so he obviously he sees the ball, he plays well, and he's a massive force. He is incredibly imposing. I mean, that dude. There was that picture that went up of the guys at the studios, the MLB Network studios, and they were all standing together. And that dude, he's a big man.
He towers.
He towers them all. Like I said, you really can't go wrong with a guy of that stature. And look, I don't know if his, what his approach is, his stance is currently, but they're obviously working with him. They're working with him. They are day in, day out trying to get that kid, right, because he was our first round, third pick of the draft.
Third pick overall. Yep.
It's you're obviously investing a lot in a guy of his skill set, and to say he's not long for third base, or to say that even if his defense is part of his weak game, I mean, it's because the dude is so imposingly large that maybe he won't be able to maneuver as well as he ages. But to have that kind of figure and that kind of talent on a team, who hits for power, for contact, for all of the things that you want a guy to hit for, you can't ask for anything more, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I said, I agree. So I had actually come across a tweet, and I actually can't even recall who it came from, but they were comparing some of the tinkering that they've done so far with his stance, with his hands, with his load and drive through and everything, to that of what they were doing to Chris Bryant when he was younger. Both bigger guys, both have kind of an awkward like stance for someone who's 6'5". But they're doing some of the same things that they did with Chris Bryant, and not unlike the Andrelton Simmons thing should excite you about Luis Garcia. But when you hear names of that comp, and I don't know if you've seen similar tweets or comps to the Chris Bryant in the offensive game, not necessarily the defensive side, that's something that excites me. It's something that adds an extra added level of confidence to someone who has a similar build. Now, Alec Bohm's, I think, a little wider than what Bryant is. But again, height wise, the way that they are in the batter's box, it was very similar, and very same things or similar things were said about Chris Bryant and his hands, being a little soft through the zone.
Right.
And I think that's a huge part where Ochart comes in. And he's going to figure out a way to best manage that load and manage that that drive through. So I'm excited about him. For me, I think probably only because he's closer than not.
Yes.
He's above Luis Garcia for me. And that was the only difference we had there in our top two. Our top three, this was our largest difference, and this is my favorite debate and argument to get in with literally everyone on the planet. Because I have to preface this by saying I absolutely love Adam Hazley, who you have in your third spot. And I have Mickey Moniak because I also love Mickey Moniak.
As do I.
And I think that a big part of this for me is looking at the way that the contracts are constructed right now for the Philadelphia Phillies. One of these players is going to inevitably be worth more as a potential cornerstone, homegrown cornerstone, and one of them is going to be worth more as a trade piece. Given that Adam Hazley is so much closer, a 3-year guy at Virginia, He's older, he's more mature. He's kind of there. Like a team could take a flyer on him right now to play, and I think he'd hold his own in the major leagues. I think that a guy like that is more valuable in, say, a Bumgarner deal, midway through the year, than what Mickey Moniak would be coming on the end of that Andrew McCutchen contract. That begins to sit there and look like the guy for me, which is why I have Moniak higher, though I do believe their skill sets are incredibly similar, and both, as we continue to mention, will benefit strongly from Jason Ochart. But I'm curious to see what separates the two players for you. What has Hazley in that clear cut number 3 spot for you? Because you have Mickey Moniak down quite a bit.
Yeah, to me, I think Adam Hazley's bat to ball skills are, and I absolutely tip my hat to Jack Fritz on this. I mean, that dude loves Hazley much more than I do, even though I love Adam Hazley.
Yeah.
But I mean, his bat to ball skills are insane. I mean, that dude, he makes contact that could rival some of the best in the game. He's really good at seeing the ball. He's really good at getting his bat to that ball, and he's really good at driving through the zone and really sending the ball wherever he really wills it to go, which is a very valuable skill. Um, and I'm so surprised that he's fallen off so many top 100 lists. I mean, Bowden had him on his, I think at like 61.
Yeah, I thought it was like
Yeah,
68. It's insane.
which I think is correct. But to me, I mean, that dude, he's never stopped hitting since he was drafted. I
Yeah.
mean, 2 years ago, he's never had a faltered step, uh, and I just don't understand why he's fallen off so many lists.
The only thing I could sit there and say is the lack of power and consistent power in some of that. I think that you look for a little bit more from your outfielders there, and I think
Totally.
that's scaring some people off. But I mean, I wrote an article for our website last year, or I think it was last year. I had went and I had saw an entire series at Reading, and I went specifically just to watch him play. I was like, all right,
Mhm.
let me get like a full weekend here against 8, 10 different pitchers. Let me see what he does. And I left that weekend. I didn't know that I could like the kid more than I did, but I did. And just as you mentioned, as Jack has mentioned on his show with High Hopes over there with Seltzer, the bat to ball skills. I mean, he's elite. And then you mentioned
Absolutely.
just a few minutes ago. His ability to drive the ball to a gap. It's an opposite gap. It does not matter where the pitches are thrown. I saw a pitch come in that he was clearly surprised on last year. An off-speed pitch, and he was clearly gearing up fastball. I swear he stopped his swing midway to the ball, held it there, and still had enough on that swing to connect it and bloop a double over the third baseman's head. And I was like, I don't know how the hell you just did that without breaking your wrists, but good for you. So he's someone I again certainly am extremely excited for. I don't discredit your number 3. Respectfully, I'm still going to take Moniak because I think that he fits the long term plan and the timeline of the organization just a little bit better than what Hazley does. That being said, I'm not mad so long as one of them is in my outfield by like 2021. I'm cool with it. Both guys, like I said, incredibly impressive. Moniak last year obviously turned it on in the second half for anyone who
Oh yeah.
who had the pleasure of seeing him play. I saw him play in Lakewood 2 years ago, man. He's fun. He looked like hell in Lakewood. I'm not going to lie. He looked terrible, but I was so excited to see him. It didn't matter. Um, so you have 3 pitching prospects, to cover up the middle right here for you. You go Adonis Medina, Spencer Howard, and JoJo Romero. Um, so I have Spencer Howard at 4, so we're close there. I don't have Adonis Medina and JoJo Romero until 7 and 8. I am lower on Adonis Medina than I think anyone else on the planet. So please, for the rest of our listeners, shed some light on why he is worthy of that top 4 or 5 spot in almost every other spot. Again, I'm a big Spencer Howard guy. You've already mentioned this. Thank Jack Fritz for that. I would not have watched as much freaking tape on that kid as I did had it not been for him. But
Oh baby.
he is something, man. He's
Oh
gonna
yeah.
he's gonna be good. Um, but but please, shed some light on the positives of Adonis Medina and and especially, Sixto being shipped off, he becomes the guy. He's the one that, he's going to be centered in trade talks, and Clentac and the organization are going to have to value him as either a piece of this rotation as early as next season, or maybe they're moving him. What are some of the positives to him?
Yeah, so you're not the only one that is drifting lower on Adonis. I know, and he's fallen down on top 100 lists,
Yeah,
but he's still on most. Um, the only trouble that I fear with Medina is that he could at some point become a glorified reliever. Um,
thank you.
his yeah, I mean I can't lie to you. His control is probably the most concerning
His
of
shoulder stays open every time he
yeah.
throws, and he's very stand up tall. He doesn't use his back, and it terrifies me.
Yeah, it and I'm almost positive that that's what they're honing in on this year. But to me, when you get a guy with 3+ pitches who has the stamina to go 6, 7, 8, 9 innings, I mean, you have to give it a shot. And I think, his fastball is good. Like, don't get me wrong. It's nice. And that's a pitcher's best friend. You love to see a good fastball. But the slider changeup combo that he works is just it's like heaven to me. I mean, I even watching him in his spring training starts this year, I swear every time he threw a secondary, it made me just it caught my eye and absolutely sent me to another dimension. I
There you
mean,
go.
if that dude can figure out how to maintain his stamina and maintain the control throughout, the innings that he's allowed, he really he would be deserving of more than just my 4 spot. But because I haven't seen that yet, that's why I have him a little lower, and that's why he's drooping on lists because he's yet to figure that out just yet. He hasn't found it.
So the thing that separates the two for me, Spencer Howard and Adonis Medina, I mentioned it, briefly there. He's very up tall, doesn't quite use his back, and his shoulder or his arm flies open a lot when he pitches. Um, it puts a lot of strain on different parts of your arm when you throw that way.
Yes.
And pitchers are so hit or miss. They can look just, I mean, we had the baby aces in the early 2000s, late 90s, and none of them became really anything. So they're so hit or miss there. So what I end up looking for is someone that has a more fluent and controlled motion that can kind of sustain that for a long period of time. I always feel like they have the better chance at finding themselves in the major leagues at that age 26, 27, 28, when most pitchers kind of hit it, because they will have gotten there healthily. They
Right.
will have thrown a few, and for me, Spencer Howard is the guy who has a far more fluent motion, and he just looks like a more complete pitcher in that respect. And if Medina can kind of figure that part out, if he can finish pitches, and drive through, close that shoulder up, it's going to put a hell of a lot less stress on his shoulder there, and then his forearm eventually. So, my biggest concern with him and banking on him as a top guy is the long-term health of a guy who's throwing that way. To me, it would have posed the same type of concern of like a Dontrelle Willis or a Timmy Lincecum with those freakishly long strides. At a certain point, you're like, damn, I don't know that you can sustain that into your early to mid 30s. And that's the kind of concern I had for his arm going forward. Jojo Romero is someone that he's not necessarily the sexy prospect. I don't think a lot of people, have too much eyes on him. But I view him as a very, very solid potential 4 or like a really, really strong 5. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on Jojo Romero as a whole. Um, I know a lot of people around baseball really, really like him. I've just never been overly wowed by him. Did I lose you there?
Oh, there we go. Yes, now I'm back.
There we go.
You got me. All right, nailed
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it cut out for a good amount of time at that point. Where did we leave off?
Sorry, Jojo Romero, your thoughts.
Oh, perfect. Great. Okay. So, in JoJo's case, you know, I personally have in the past, I used to write a blog before I came to the Good Fight, and so now I write for them, and I use my Twitter, things like that.
Mhm.
And Jojo Romero was a big centerpiece of one of my final articles on my blog before I switched over, um, in which I compared him to David Price.
Oh,
Um, and I know that that sounds like a negative thing right now, but
no, not particularly.
I mean, we all know when Price was young, dude was on it. I mean, there's a reason he garnered the contract that he did, and there's a reason he's with the Red Sox right now. I mean, kid was great. Um, and the similarities between the two are legitimately staggering. I mean, they throw not only do they throw the same kind of go-to pitches, but they also have a very similar, and they're both lefties, obviously. They have a very similar slot movement. I mean, arm slot, we're talking, they're from from the beginning of their wind up and or their set to the follow through of their movement. I mean, you're looking at almost a mirror image. And I compared the two of them side by side in this article, and it is actually terrifying how similar the two look. So to me, in JoJo, you have a guy that is a purebred starter, but also has the ability to turn to so many secondaries that are good. I mean, we're looking at his best pitches are definitely his fastball and his changeup. Um, but when you look at, I mean, he rocks a slider sometimes. He has a cut fastball that's absolutely, if he can develop it, would be insane. His curve and his slider, that's one of his weaknesses to me. Or they tend to mirror each other, um, and the curve has a lot less velocity on it, and he gets punished a lot for that. But I mean, that changeup and that fastball, his ability to work in on guys on both sides of the plate, so lefties and righties. I mean, it really spells out a complete pitcher to me. And he's probably going to start either in Double A or if he was, if they saw it worthy, he would move up to that Triple A rotation, which is looking awesome as of right now. Paul Boyer just did a brilliant article on the Good Fight about the Lehigh Valley rotation, which I'm so excited to watch. Um,
Same.
yeah, gonna be
Yeah,
sweet.
that's a good package to have right now. I'm glad that we re-upped.
Yeah, me too. And it's especially going to be nice to see so many guys who are such fringe major leaguers to get their shot. But that's besides the point. What you have in JoJo is a lefty with an arsenal, and that's not easy to find. Lefties in and of themselves are valuable, but to get a lefty guy with the stamina and the arsenal of a starting pitcher is really nice to have, and I love JoJo. He's one of my biggest and brightest. So
Clearly, we're gonna put a link up to your old blog still up?
yeah, it is.
Awesome.
It
So
is
yeah,
my
we'll
old yeah. It's Can We Fix It MLB.weebly.com, I believe.
okay.
I can grab that for you. I haven't used it in a little bit.
It's all
Uh,
good. Like I said, we'll put a link to that for people to go ahead and read that comparison article that you have there. That's super intriguing because I am nowhere near as high on him as you are. But when someone speaks that passionately and knowledgeably about a particular prospect, it intrigues me. So I'll probably make the trip out to Baseball Town just a couple more times than I would have.
Please do.
To go out there and see some of those starts, or to down to Coca-Cola Park. I don't really think we need to delve into De Los Santos. I just move the kid to the bullpen and move on in life. I
Seriously.
hate the way that he throws. It looks like he's throwing a dart. It drives me crazy. I don't know that I can't think or remember of any time a younger pitcher that was coming up that had the kind of season that he had last year that I was like, I don't ever want to see you throw. Just
Uh,
stop. Absolutely stop. That being said, if you put him in the bullpen, suddenly I don't hate him anymore.
I mean, his two pitch pitching,
It's
you
great.
you cannot. I mean, this dude, he's gonna be a weapon. He really is. And just to quickly touch on it, I mean, he can get guys out from both sides, and that's what you need in a reliever. And there's no way that curve is going to develop. I mean,
Not the way he
especially like
throws.
exactly, especially the way he throws. I mean, he will murder his arm. So what I'm thinking is throw him in the bullpen. He'll be up next year to replace one of Neshek, Hunter, and Nicasio, and
Yep.
that's that. That being said, super high on him as a bullpen candidate. I really think he is an excellent stopper. So I can't wait to see how that goes.
Yeah, like I said, I'd like to never see him start another game. But as a bullpen pitcher, he intrigues me.
Yes.
And guys that throw from different slots, and when you look like you're throwing a dart, it does get on you differently than someone who has, I don't know, an actual arm movement when pitching.
Yeah.
We both have Jalen Ortiz in there. I have him a little bit higher than you. I believe his offensive upside is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I don't really know where he fits in Philadelphia. And I mentioned, as we were talking back and forth, until a DH, which I would loathe. I hate the DH, but with it inevitably coming to the NL, that obviously changes the value of him in the Philadelphia Phillies system, because I don't necessarily see him, working as a first baseman, left fielder, or anything.
No, not at all.
He's a give him a bat and watch him swing 4 times a game and then sit your ass down. Kind of guy. That being said, in the box, he's super exciting.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he's. I love watching him hit, especially when we first signed him. There was a little YouTube clip that was up of him taking some BP in front of scouts, and I watched him swing, and immediately I was thinking of David Ortiz. I mean, that dude. It's not just because of the last name. I mean, the dude has this amazing cross-plate swing that, I mean, he could do. There's that gif running around of Vlad Guerrero with the one-arm swing. I mean, that was a double. John could probably hit that out of the park. I mean, the dude's power. He is what, 20 now? 21?
Yeah, he's 20. He might be 21 midseason.
And I think when he was signed, he had a 60 grade power tool when he was 18. I mean, that's crazy. That is absolutely insane. So I think, should he continue to develop and grow into his body, I think he's 6'3", 6'4", and he's a big boy. Should he continue to grow into his body, I think, power-wise, you're not going to be able to even touch this guy. But that being said, his defense is something to behold. It's quite bad.
It's atrocious.
But it's because he's a big guy, and he's not expected to really run around. He's kind of like, I look at Kendrys Morales and I wonder how that dude was ever a first baseman or an outfielder. I mean,
or anything.
That guy is chunky. Well, he can hit. I mean,
he can hit. I'm saying defensively where he fits.
Yeah, I mean, that to me that was always an enigma. But you've got a guy, like Ortiz, and he turns heads because of just how powerful he is. So he's not even in. I don't think he's in any top 10s on many lists across the board on the internet. But for me, he'll be there for quite some time until I have reason to believe otherwise. He can put up as many bad contact numbers as he wants. As long as he's shooting the ball, I'm good. I'll take it.
I would take a flyer on him in the box before I ever did on Dylan Cousins.
Absolutely.
Dylan Cousins drives me crazy.
I mean, just to really, because I wanted to touch on this with Bohm as well. The thing with Cousins, really quick, is that, and I was talking to Matt Winkleman about this. He's on Twitter too. If you want to go give him a follow, he's the Lord and Savior of Phillies prospects. I mean, I was talking to him about this. Sometimes guys just can't figure out, especially guys with big bodies, they can't figure out how to stretch their swing so that they can maintain contact ability when they're reaching to either the other side of the plate or they're trying to come in short. And sometimes you just can't figure that out. And that's why I think Ochart, however you want to say his last name, I think he's going to be so detrimental to developing a guy like Alec Bohm or Ortiz. I mean, you've got some big guys that have huge arms, that have huge wingspans, that need to learn how to either bring it in, bring it out, or center it. and they need to learn how to maintain stability when doing that. And Cousins just reaches out and lets it rip. And, his power, insanity. We all saw that 500-foot bomb that he hit, maybe the third game of spring training. I mean, he's got insane power, but when a guy that late in development can't get it together when you're swinging over the plate, when you're swinging down, when you're swinging up, like however you're tracking the ball, if you can't put the bat to ball a majority of the time, it's not going to work out. And that's why I'm so happy we have other big guys in the system that are still developing and that will learn how to do that, because I think they've learned from their mistake that they made with Dylan Cousins. That's my rant. I'm good.
I appreciate that. And I couldn't say that better myself. And again, bringing in Ochart again with that, what he is going to do for this team is going to be just absolutely incredible.
Huge.
That cannot be said enough. I should probably have an Ochart pod at one point. But we only have about 2 minutes left. We had other stuff that we were going to get into, but we'll close it out basically just talking about our top 10, and we'll probably have you on show again at some point if you'd like to join back, and we'll dive into some more of this. But our number 10s both interest me. So yours was Francisco Morales. So please explain.
Ooh, baby. All right. So this is another one of the guys that it could just be a glorified bullpen arm, but currently we are looking at a 19-year-old kid that tops at 97, first of all, which is awesome at 19. And he's trust me, it is effortless. The way he throws the ball, it's amazing. And he has a slider in the works that is, it cuts. That thing is pretty nasty. There was actually, I forget who tweeted it. Let me go look really quick. There was some video footage of him by Jason Woodell, at Jason at the Game on Twitter, if you want to give him a follow. There was some video footage of Morales pitching yesterday where he buckled the guy's knees with a slider 3 times in a row. I was floored. I mean, you can trick guys all you want with your combinations of pitches and whatever, but if you can fire a massive fastball down the middle, which he has, and then give him a slider to offer at in any capacity, or you can trick them with that same slider, I mean, you've already got a massive, massive amount of space on the plate to work with. And he's also developing a changeup. I'm almost positive. But he has this ability to trick guys with even the simplest of his stuff. And while I'm not as high on him as I am on guys like Spencer Howard, who, has even more velocity right now, which is insane. But
he's a big dude too. So.
Oh man. Yeah, love Spencer. But, I think Francisco Morales has the ability to work his way up into, many, many top 100 lists, if not, creep into the top 25 eventually, given the projection of what I see him doing, just with that combination of pitches, if he can really hone in on them. Crazy weapon. Really, really solid.
Another person, again, very excited for him. My number 10 was Kevin Gowdy. I know no one knows who the hell he is anymore, but
Kevin.
But I have faith that after that surgery he's going to come back okay. But that's going to wrap up for this one. We're running real short on time here. Alex, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. Real quick, just remind all of my listeners where they can find you on Twitter.
Yes, sir. It's Alex Carr MLB, at Alex Carr MLB, and I also write for The Good Fight, usually about 2 or 3 articles a week, so catch me there.
Awesome. Again, thank you. We loved having you. Be sure to continue to follow the In Cap We Trust segment here at the Always Next Year podcast. I host that one. You can find me on Twitter at Shane_Meade. You can also subscribe to our website, www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com, and be sure to rate and review the podcast as often as you can. We'd like to have some validation that we're doing the right things in life. Um, but again, Alex, thanks very much, man. It was good having you on. It was good having Johnny on earlier. Looking forward to having you guys both on, a little more regularly.
Yes, sir. Much thanks for having me.
All right, sir. Take care.
Appreciate it.